Gracias por acompañarnos en esta iniciativa de Voces Responsables, el programa de voces y ecos dedicado a promover las mejores prácticas de responsabilidad social en el sector de empresas de medios de comunicación. Soy Hernán Castiñeira de Dios, director ejecutivo de Voces y Ecos, y tengo el privilegio de presentarles al doctor Wayne Visser. Wayne es, además de un enamorado de Sudáfrica, su patria, un reconocido líder académico en temas de gestión responsable y sustentable. Es PhD en responsabilidad social corporativa por la Universidad de Nottingham, Master of Science en Ecología Humana por la Universidad de Edimburgo y licenciado cum laude en Ciencias Empresariales por la Universidad de Cape Town. Fundador y director del think tank CSR International, el profesor Visser es Senior Associate del programa de liderazgo en sustentabilidad de la Universidad de Cambridge y profesor adjunto en responsabilidad social corporativa en la Prof Graduate School of Management. Radicado en el Reino Unido, el Dr. Visser ha publicado algunos de los más destacados bestsellers en la literatura académica de la responsabilidad social. Voces Responsables presenta esta reflexión acerca del rol de los medios de comunicación y la responsabilidad social empresarial a cargo de su colaborador voluntario, el Dr. Wayne Visser.
Hello, I'm Wayne Visser, and I'm founder and director of CSR International and Kaleidoscope Futures. Hernan asked me just to record a short message for your organization, Voices and Echoes, as I understand you're doing some work on CSR in the media space, and he suggested I share a few ideas on the topic. Well, I'm not an expert on media, but I have had some dealings with how media deals with the issues of sustainability, of social responsibility, and ethics and corruption. Really, my message, I suppose, falls into three categories. The first is the role of media as a provider of information. The second is its role as a watchdog. And the third is its role in promoting engagement. And so the three questions that we really need to ask are: what does balance in information mean? Who is the paymaster? And why do we care? So let's look at those each in turn briefly. Clearly, the media of all kinds has a tremendous role to play in providing information about the global crises that we face, whether it be climate change or biodiversity loss or poverty or corruption. It should be the provider of neutral information. It should be sharing stories not only about the problems, but also about the solutions. But here we get to a tricky issue. What does balance mean? Clearly, a media outlet has a responsibility to show both sides of a story. But what we found was happening on climate change is that a lot of media outlets were presenting the pro-climate voice on the one side and then a skeptic voice on the other side, and presenting them as if they were balanced and giving them equal weight. Well, clearly, when almost all of the world's scientists believe that climate change is real, it's serious, it's caused by our human activities, it's not creating a very responsible message by giving equal weight to somebody who happens to be a rogue skeptic. So I think media has to think very carefully about what it means to be neutral, what it means to be balanced. And sometimes being balanced means to take into account the weight of the evidence. The second role is really around being a watchdog. We live in a world when business and often government are the powerful forces in society. They're the ones with the resources, and often they're the ones that have the most to gain from the status quo. In other words, not changing to the kind of low-carbon, sustainable society that we need, because they're benefiting from the way that things are now. And what we often find is that governments are very influenced by large corporations, and that there's a lot of lobbying that happens. And so we have to ask, in terms of the media, are they brave enough to be the watchdog, to be examining, analyzing companies and their performance on issues of sustainability, and actually exposing them when there are human rights infringements, when there is damage that they're doing to the environment, when there is corruption. And I've come across a number of journalists in countries around the world who are actually intimidated actively by government agents and by companies because they're trying to play that role of the watchdog. But it's absolutely vital in any democracy that media plays this role. The third and last area then is the growing role of media as a facilitator of engagement. We have to ask the question, how do we get people to care about issues of sustainability, issues relating to the survival of the planet, issues relating to the quality of life of people, especially in poor communities? Well, one of the most effective ways is to engage people who used to just be readers, but now can be involved in a number of formats, whether it's webinars or blogs or tweeting, using Twitter. It seems to me that the media now plays a much more active role in being a forum for dialogue, whereas before a lot of media was seen as the source of expertise, the source of professional and researched information. Now they also have to be the one that holds the conversation and allows people to share their views, whether or not they be experts. So it becomes, in a way, the conduit or the pipeline for sharing opinions in society, and not just by professional journalists. So if we look at something like the Guardian Sustainable Business service now that we have in the UK, they've become extremely active in being a basis for dialogue to take place on these critical issues for society. So really those are my messages as you begin to do work with the media in Argentina and elsewhere. I hope that you will bear in mind that media has a huge role to play. At the end of the day, if we can't convince people that moving to a more sustainable and a more responsible society is something that's worth doing, then we simply won't get the changes happening. There will be too much inertia, too much resistance to that change, and this is where media can play a huge role, is to help to motivate towards a positive change in society. And I congratulate you on the great work that you're doing in helping to bring about that positive change. Thank you very much.